Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we look at what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now, my name's Rod Mackenzie, and today I want to talk about the impact of the current tariff wars. As the US and China continue to escalate their trade wars with tariffs on various goods, of ever increasing importance to note that there are some things that the US cannot do without and is unable to get from anywhere else, despite all the rhetoric they get from Donald Trump. Now, one of these sectors is the rare earth elements of metals that are used in a wide range of modern technology. And according to current sources, it appears that Elon Musk's SpaceX, along with others, is heavily dependent on China's export of rare earth elements. Now, it's been reported that shipments of 7 different rare earth metals, which export controls were tightened on in early April, were effectively stopped. Now, according to a report in the New York Times, which I do actually give some credence to occasionally, exporters are now awaiting permits from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. Now, the NYT further reports that the wait for licenses may be lengthy, with a delay of several weeks to several months being anticipated. Additionally, it's not guaranteed that some or all of the applicants will receive their export licenses. Now, a number of Chinese rare earth suppliers have already declared force majeure on their international contracts that they've already signed. It's also reported that a number of ships are fully loaded with these rare earth elements but cannot leave ports without permission from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. Will it be forthcoming? We don't know. Now, according to an unnamed Chinese rare earth trader quoted by the New York Times, ships carrying rare earths will be sent to buyers in no less than 60 days, although this delay is likely to be longer. So the economic consequences of China's refusal to supply rare earth metals is actually quite broad. They go from the military industrial sector, electronics, electric vehicles, and the renewable energy sector, where they're used in the batteries and motors. Now, rare earth metals are essential for the military in the production of radar systems, satellites, and precision weapons. Curtailing or even reducing the export of such elements will hit the US military particularly hard, particularly the military-industrial complex, analysts think. Now, Donald Trump's currently intent on protecting the American economy, he says, but it could end up being even more vulnerable from the attacks backed by China. I mean, another sector that's going to be hit is the space and aerospace sector. Particularly the restrictions are going to affect one of Elon Musk's main assets, which is SpaceX. And this could deepen the alleged rift within the White House of how to proceed with the trade war. Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website, SCOBRICSinsight.com, to further develop it. Now, you can do this by making a small donation, which can be done by clicking at the thanks button at the bottom of the screen. Everybody who donates does get a personal thank you from me, and I'm thanking you all now for watching. Do like and subscribe, and also share this with others you think might enjoy it, and do keep the comments coming. So, does China have the upper hand? Well, the rare earth elements neodymium, praseodymium, samarium, dysprosium are key components in the production of miniature but powerful magnets that are needed to power engines, generators, radars, laser systems, missile guidance, and satellite technology. So you're talking a broad range of stuff. I mean, for example, neodymium magnets are used in the electric motors of drones, F-35 fighter jets, and in submarines. And without these magnets, factories in the USA are not going to be able to produce drones, missiles, or robots, according to Freedom Finance analyst Vladimir Chekhov. So why has China decided to stop exporting rare earth metals? When it suspended the export of a wide range of rare earth metals and magnets because of the sanctions and the trade war with the United States. I mean, according to the New York Times that reported there, it said according to their report, Beijing's actions has threatened to cut off components vital to the automotive and the aerospace sectors. And that includes semiconductor companies and military contractors around the world. Now, you can actually see that point. I mean, the US is pushing China, and they've got to have a way of striking back. Now, analysts claim that these restrictions will inflict far more and significant damage to the US economy, particularly the military-industrial complex and the technology sector. Now, it's been clear that creating alternative supply chains or developing replacement technologies are actually going to require significant time. We're talking 5 to 10 years investment, and that's really going to temporarily weaken the US defense position. Now, the economic consequences of China's refusal to supply rare earths are actually broader, because in addition to the military industrial sector, electronics, electronic vehicles, and renewable energy, that all industries are going to suffer from the shortage, according to Pavel Sestyanov, who's a professor of political analysis and economics at the Russian University of Economics. I mean, you've got to understand the US is actually 80% dependent on Chinese imports in this area. Have a look at the slide I'm just going to shove up here, which you'll see while I'm talking through. And they need to find alternatives if they can find them. I mean, for example, resuming production of its own or in allied countries such as Australia and Canada is an option, but it's not a viable one at the moment. I mean, another industry that could suffer from the supply is obviously the space sector. I mean, with, as I mentioned, SpaceX, which is owned by the billionaire and Trump confidant Elon Musk, is really going to fuel the internal confrontation between the influential people and the president's inner circle. I mean, it has to be noted that Elon Musk has repeatedly spoken out against tariffs because he doesn't think that they've actually been well thought out. I mean, his criticism is directed not so much at Trump himself, but the House Trade Advisor, Peter Navarro, who's been described as the main initiator of protectionism in the US administration. I mean, Musk has publicly condemned him on his social network X, and Musk, for his part, has noted that there was no tension in their relationship, and if you actually believe that, I certainly don't, and obviously I've got a bridge to sell you, and that's given Musk's tendency to attack those he dislikes on his platform X. Now, you've got to remember that rare earths are one of the few sectors in which the availability of resources is of considerable importance, according to Anthony Barkota. The availability of these chemical elements is crucial to the production of high-tech products, batteries, electronic components, semiconductors, etc. And in 2024, the US will import 80% of the physical volumes of pure rare earth metals and their compounds directly from China. Yeah, that's huge. Now, can you replace that? I think not. And this is going to have to be, according to Pavel Pavlov, he said the China's share of global exports of rare earth metals is suddenly 86%, and the rare earth compounds at 30%, making it impossible to change suppliers or find alternatives. And the deficit in rare earth metals is dependent on the USA finding external suppliers, especially China. And that means they're so vulnerable for these geopolitical games, of which Donald Trump thinks he's very good at. So that's why the United States is actively trying to strengthen its position by investing in a number of deposits, technologies, and the search for alternative solutions, such as cooperation with the Ukraine or Russia in the field of their extraction. But that's not going to be something that's going to happen very quickly, according to Freedom Finance analyst Vladimir Chernov. I mean, he explained it's not just a question of economics, but of national security. I mean, this is increasingly linked to the access to these critical resources, and every country wants to make sure that they could do it. I mean, Russia could, however, in theory, replace the lost volumes of rare earth supplies to the US. But there's a number of obstacles in this situation. According to analyst Andrei Barkota, he points out that if China then restricts supplies to Russia, having Russia exporting to the US, it's actually going to cause the same sort of problem. So in order to increase supplies of rare earth metals from Russia to the United States, the anti-Russian sanctions are also going to have to be lifted, and I think that's unlikely at this point in time. I mean, sanctions tend to be lifted far more slowly than they're ever imposed. I mean, just look at Cuba. Now, the two-chair configuration as Russia is forced to maintain its current situation may have some side effects in the trade wars, according to Bahoka. He said the battle for rare earth metals is being fought all over the world. In Japan, for example, I mean, they are used in the automotive and electronics industry. Right? In Korea, they're used in the technology sector by Samsung and LG. And in Europe, they're needed for the development of their so-called green energy, as in solar panels and wind turbines. And Russia has its own reserves to meet its needs, its military-industrial complex and its aerospace sector, says Kalachev. But what leverage do China and the US have? I mean, restricting the supply of rare earths is a tough move by China in the trade war, and it confirms that Beijing's not actually going to back down and take everything that is being slapped on it by Trump. But however, few countries have options to apply pressure. I mean, the increase in tariffs are possible, but they're not going to have a significant impact. I mean, China doesn't exactly need the money. I mean, we're not looking at huge amounts of money for the rare earth metals. It's their scarcity. So the tariffs are already prohibitive in a number of places, and the main lever of pressure remain with the parties in forming trade and economic alliances, obviously, things like the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, there's a new alliance that seems to be developing, and that's between China and the European Union, and that's designed to compensate for China's lost exports to the US by redirecting their US exports to the EU. Now, at the same time, the Eurozone countries are very cautious about this. I mean, particularly so. I mean, they've just been kicked in the bollocks by the US, and they're certainly not looking to be there. Now, also the alliance with the US and Russia. I mean, if America succeeds in weaning Russia from its close ties to China, which I think is unlikely, they're going to have a huge market, and the US will have the missing resource base, according to Bahoka. But I don't believe that for a minute. I mean, Beijing's readiness for a tough escalation could prompt Washington to rethink its strategies from negotiations to retaliation, or vice versa. According to Pavel Sestisanov of the Russian School of Economics, in the long run, this is going to try and encourage the West to reduce its dependence on China and speed up the delivery of alternative supply chains. But that's more wishful thinking, and it's easier said than done. And it's going to take years to achieve. If at all. In the meantime, the Chinese and the US are going to have to negotiate to try and avoid further escalation. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Also set the alert button so you get informed when I post a new video, and click on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen if you want to help me out and make a donation. And I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.